Human resource management is an important part of any business, and every decision made in this business is always for the interest of that company. Human resource management can be divided into two places. We have employee management and we have HR planning. Employee management, HR planning. So we said that human resource management is just an important part of your organization, be it a school, be it a company, be it any kind of organization. And then this human resource management is opening our eyes to relationship, improvement in relationship, in corporate relationship. And everything we do in human resource management is for the growth of that company. Employee management involves ensuring that everyone has the proper training, evaluation, and compensation to make them productive members of that company. So it's simply saying that you have to carry them along. You have to make sure they have everything they need to be able to work in that place and stay happy with it. Human resource planning, on the other side, involves deciding what kind of people you want to keep, what kind of people you want to hire, and what are the developing strategies to find them. Today, we are going to look at human resource management and relationship improvement management. And this is under public relations. So now the evolution of human resource. The ability of a company to grow and survive in the market is determined by its strategic plan. What are your strategies? You're not just going to start something without having your strategic plans. Strategic planning is the process of creating a long-term vision, not a short, but a long-term vision that will work toward making the company successful in the future. But unfortunately, not all companies have a proper strategy because they do not know where they want to be in 20 years and they are not asking for help. So this is where human resource management emanates in. Human resource management is defined as a process of managing people within an organization. I want you to pick up this definition again. Human resource management is defined as a process of managing people within an organization. And this is the process of hiring, training, and developing. Also terminating, yes. Hiring, training, developing, and terminating people. HR professionals must make sure that employees are motivated in every situation. Is an important part. Employees must be very motivated in every situation. And it is not just about managing employees, but also about improving their productivity. Of course, the reason you are having employees is that you need you are running a company, not a family, right? So it is not just you, but you need these employees from different kind of all walks of life to come and manage what you have set out there. So you need productivity. You need to pay attention to what you guys are producing. Is it very productive? Is it less productive? So it's not just about managing employees, but also about improving their productivity, which can be done by bringing out their best through training programs. Training is very important in these human resource management matters that we're discussing. training is very important. If you want to become a successful HR manager, HR is simply human resource, you must first of all understand where the position came from. The role of an HR manager has evolved over the years due to changing needs of employees and organizations. All right. The evolution of employment. This whole thing started from farming in the bush till people found themselves in town. People went into contracts, didn't even understand the terms of the contract they were going into. And then, some contracts were like short-term contracts. When they got on it, they thought they got a job. But all of a sudden, the contract ended and they were out of job again, and they were so frustrated. So it was during this era that human resource management was born, because there were employees who did not want to be treated as objects of employment and wanted greater recognition and respect. Some people didn't just want to do like short-term contract and you trash them. Maybe you find a place like, like building, you find yourself where they are doing just like COVID, right? COVID is a good example. During the time of COVID, a lot of us were hired to go and carry out duties to those who were sick. So COVID is not going to be here forever. If COVID was lasting for 3 months, at the end of 3 months, those people were out of job. So when they sent them out, they felt so bad because they did not understand the terms of contract. And it was out of this whole frustration that human resource management was born. After World War II, many changes took place in the world, which led to advanced technology being incorporated into workplace. This technology, can agree with me, technology is advancing on a daily basis. And this is no longer the time we say, we're not used to this. If you're really going to be working out there, you need to learn some things. So the Human Resource Department plays a key role in employee retention because it can identify whether the employees are performing well or not, which also helps in improving employee retention. So when you have gotten an employee, the first thing you need to do as a human resource person is to make sure that they go through the proper training. Don't say, this is my sister-in-law coming in. They must go through proper training, proper orientation. It doesn't matter that you have done it for 20 years. When you come into this place, America will say that every facility is different. So I have worked in a facility A for 20 years, and facility B is bringing me on board. I have to go through their own training because there's something they have different. And it is your responsibility as a company to make sure that I go through that training. It's not something that begins to happen in the middle of our contract. So this also led to specialization of human resource professionals because there was a higher demand for professionals who could help organizations improve their workplace. These whole people started like it was just such a generalized, they were all over the whole place, to helping here and helping there. But due to growth, some people were going into specialization, areas of specialization. The rise of human resource. With temporary employment, a need for skilled professionals also arose. This is where the HR department came in because it could hire people on short-term contracts and then retain them. So when you bring people on board on short-term contracts, if you're able to train them, if you're able to spell out exactly what you're doing, you're able to present your whole entire contract, they go through it and they are okay with it, and you've been able to also secure them by making them happy. Trust me, when that contract ends, they want to work with you. And it's very good for you as a company to retain than not to retain. Because if you are not going to retain, you are going to continue to train people all the time. Every time in your life, you will be spending a lot of time and money training. In the US, there's a lot of materials to train, so it's a lot of money. With the rise of human resources came a demand for HR managers who could find talent from within the organization and develop it. So this is not everybody. When you come into a job setting, we just have these few talented people they know how to spot something in you, and then they know how to develop it. So you can come in as an employee, you're so frustrated and all you want is a job. When you get into that job, you're going to start you from somewhere. But along the line, they can realize that, oh my God, we have a pale loader in this place, and you can drive that pale loader and drive it better than what you're doing. Well, this is when professional associations like Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development were formed, which taught professionals how to become effective managers within an organization and effectively manage employees. So we are saying that these HR people, other people have trained them. They are trained to be able to train the employees. So it's really not a joking matter. You have to be trained to train others. And then the purpose of human resource management is to ensure that employees are happy at work and are productive in their jobs. In the long run, it is also responsible for creating great leaders who can take the company to greater heights tomorrow. What you put in them is what you get out from them. So you put a lot in them, you are expected to get a lot from your employees. And then we have human capital. We might not go into it, but it's important to know about it. Human capital, culture, and succession planning. These three things we need to focus on. Human capital, culture, and succession planning. For human capital, it is the most valuable asset in an organization, and without it, no matter how much money you have, you can't survive in the market. The human resource department ensures that employees are happy and well trained because they know that these people can take a company to great heights if they are motivated enough. So motivation is important. Greater outputs from them, which means more profits for the company. If there is low productivity, then there will be no extra money coming in from the organization, which would lead to losses and ultimately bankruptcy of the company. Then talking about culture, it is very important for an organization to have a good culture. You have to have a culture. Have a culture because it helps in creating a positive work environment. When anybody comes into your work environment, they're gonna know your culture. They need to learn your culture. In America, we call some of these things like template. Other people call it all kinds of things. But you just need to have something. It has to be a uniform thing. It doesn't just change every day. It's a culture. It can also be done by training employees to be better leaders who can take the company forward with their wisdom and knowledge. And then talking about succession planning, it ensures that everything runs smoothly, even when there's a change in leadership, which is usually inevitable after a few years. And then recruitment division. The recruitment division, is responsible for finding potential candidates who are required to fill certain vacancies. It is also important to ensure that employees get along well with each other, which means effective team building exercises need to be conducted every now and then. If the recruitment process is not done properly, then an organization can face a lot of problems in future because employees who have been hired might not be productive or even suitable for that job. So human resource personnel really has a lot to do in this place. Training is of very important essence. When you bring them in, you must train them. Do not be carried away that they have done it for 20 years in another job, because it is just like bringing somebody who has served in cherubim and seraphim to come and start all of a sudden start working in chosen is a different, they have their own background, a total different background from cherubim. So if but they are all Christians, right? So once you just say, okay, who are you a Christian? Yes, okay, I'm hiring you. Are you a Christian? Yes, I'm hiring you. But this person is coming from deeper life background, this person is coming from Christ Ascension Church background. So this is the reason you have to train everybody, so that when they come, they will do exactly what the culture of that company has. And then when it comes to training, it is important not to cut corners. The manager of this department is responsible for implementing all training programs, making sure all employees receive proper training on a regular basis. Be it with technologies, because technologies are coming out on daily basis. Don't just assume that they know computer. Somebody might know computer but doesn't know how to go into a particular network to go and do some work. So it's your responsibility to give them that training and don't get tired of it. I remember being hired in a job, and then this man, who the human resource person, walked into that place and just assumed that I knew how to operate fire extinguishers. And he said, "Oh, I know you know how to operate fire extinguishers." And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "Okay, can you sign my paper for me?" And I signed his paper. It was not how many minutes he left and there was fire incident. But thank God there were people who knew how to use the fire extinguisher at that time. And this was many, many years ago. If that place got burnt down, though the employee might rot in jail, but what is your gain? You will lose your company to fire. So please, it is your responsibility to make sure that they get their proper training without cutting corners or assuming for them that they know it just because they have been in other jobs. Most importantly, the manager must deal with all these issues efficiently, because if people feel that their voice is not being heard, they will leave the company and look for a better opportunities elsewhere, which can be detrimental to an organization's reputation among its clients and customers. And I think this is very true. I give credit to I prepared myself with a book titled Human Resource Essentials by David Young. I give credit to David Young. He did a good work, a very good job. Everything he said is a lot of things we have seen out there at work. Be sure to see that no clashes are there between management and employees, because it can affect productivity. It's all about the company, but at the same time, maintenance is very important. You have to maintain everybody that you need to maintain to be able to have a good productivity coming in for this company. All right, there's something called internal communications. Internal communications is very important. You have to really have, you can't talk to your employees or your employers from a periphery perspective. There has to be something called internal communication, which is very important factor in an organization's process. It can also prevent employees from leaving the company because they are really understanding you and you are really carrying them along. And when people have all those with internal communication, it's like everybody knows everything, and it is easier to anticipate any problems or issues within their area of work, be it a technology problem or employee problem. The method of internal communication will include like printed materials. Here in the US, we do a lot of newsletters. Newsletters will have a lot of information for what you're doing. They have electronic media such as email, and then website. A lot of information is there in the website. We do a lot of seminars and workshops. Workshop. Every payday is a workshop. So with this, we are able to enjoy all these internal communications. We're able to see the bosses and people in the corporate office come around, and it's so much fun. You adapt to them and they adapt to you. Internal communication should be clear, concise, and convenient. I want you to pay attention to that. Internal communication should be clear, concise, and convenient. I think finally we just want to touch bases with mitigating legal risks in human resources. Mitigating legal risks. It's very important to mitigate legal risks. Avoid any legal entanglements with employees of your company. Every legal issue that is avoidable, do everything as a company to avoid them. They don't always look good. It is also essential to know what kind of information should be shared in a meeting or at a video call. It is important to make sure there is no sensitive information shared during such sections because if that information leaks out, this will directly damage your company's reputation and hamper your business prospects in the future as well. So if you think that a meeting is not the right platform to share certain information, please don't share it. It doesn't matter if the employees are saying, can you please share? Since it's going to affect you, if that's not the proper place, the proper perspective, do not share it. However, avoid this as much as possible because employees have rights to know about important things that are going on in the company. In actuality, you have to treat your employees well and not just as a mere piece of information. I think we have tried to know your information security out there. What can endanger your business? There are some things that are overlooked. For example, information security is very important for human resource managers as well. They have access to important information about the company's plans, and all these should be kept confidential as much as possible. However, it is not enough to just make sure you have access to confidential data. It is necessary to know how they use this data so that it does not end up being leaked out somewhere else. This requires tracking of all employee computer usage by HR managers, and supervisors across the organization. It may seem like an invasion of privacy at first, but this way you will ensure that no employee can leak out any sensitive information out there in public scenarios or social networking sites such as Facebook, Twitter. We have a lot of them these days. If you do not want your reputation destroyed by employees leak, or if you don't want to face any major lawsuit, then you have to take proper steps to avoid this. Yes. There's another kind of security risk that human resource managers must deal with, and it is called counterfeit human rights documents. It happens when someone copies your vital information. There are just a whole lot about legal that we may not go into. There are too many things that you just have to keep tracking things. Since this is a legal issue, it is better you consult a lawyer. Of course, depending on the size of the company. But even if it is a small size of a company, every company needs a lawyer that you're going to consult so that they can give you proper advice on how to take care of things. Counterfeit happens a lot of times, like when you keep losing employees, and that's why it's not right to lose employees. Those employees, when they leave with your letter-headed papers. They are writing letters as if this is you talking. They will call, this is the company. They can make calls. They can go ahead and continue with the customers that were coming when they were there. So, but one of the things that will always help you is some kind of special symbols that just not any kind of person can manipulate when they get out there. Also, privacy, security, and confidentiality are some of the most important legal issues that human resource manager should look into. Privacy concerns the right of an individual to keep his personal information confidential and private. HR professionals have a lot to ensure that they are observing and dealt with in terms of its protection from any unauthorized access or a theft. Confidentiality refers to how a company keeps its data secret from other companies or individuals who may use the data against it. It has been observed that employees tend to um, overlook documentation, or they tend to neglect documentation. And for you as a company, this can lead to a lot of legal problems. So it is your responsibility to keep the employees, to make sure that all documentation are completed at the appropriate time. I work in a healthcare setting, and I can tell you that I understand exactly what they're talking about. In the healthcare profession, you hear things like HIPAA violation is Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. You have a lot of accountability to give. You have a lot of protection to make. You are chatting about a patient's illness. It shouldn't be obtainable for the public, not even for the family. So we pay attention as a company to see if you are running like a hospital, who is this person that is calling you? When a patient dies, you don't just call anybody in the family. You have to go through the information you have in the system to make sure who you are calling from the family is the power of attorney. There is always a power of attorney, as you cannot talk to everybody in the family. And sometimes they have exceptions. I'm married, but I don't want you to call my husband when I die. So if you go to call my husband, you have just breached a rule and you have just brought yourself illegal. We're going to stop here so far, and I want to believe that we have covered a whole lot. It's just something that we need to read and read again as an employee, as an employer. We all have something, a huge role that we need to play. And as a human resource person, you really have a lot that you need to pay attention to. Thank you so very much. Once again, my name is Dr. Stella Henry.